I use some guidance on how I could work with all the different sites in my district about what makes a good referral to WESELPA counseling, so we're not bogging them down with referring the wrong students. I hear a lot of conversation about who we should or who we shouldn't, or why we should or why we shouldn't, and I myself really never seen anything like that.
No, that might be a really good agenda item for maybe our next PAC meeting, because Dave was very generous and Helen to come to give me a one-on-one instruction on that, and it was very helpful in just kind of knowing what are the right referrals, what are the right way to make the referral, and that was very helpful for me. And I don't know if that's something we can put on the PAC agenda so everyone can benefit.
Okay.
I'll buy lunch, Dave.
Yeah, and they do a training, and I know they're redoing the training because in the past we had pre-referral requirements, and while legally those have gone away, I still think they're probably a best practice. So, you know, when Lori gets a call from somebody at site says, I want to make a referral, she can kind of say, well, what have you tried?
That would be great.
And, you know, we can, you know, I mean, you don't want it to be, you know, you have to try X, Y, and Z, because some kids need to jump to the top of the line because of the circumstances. But at the same time, you know, we don't want it to be a one-size-fits-all, and all we do is provide individual counseling no matter what the need is.
Another idea, back to what I found worked really well, is developing partnerships stronger between the counselors and the school sites or other agencies that we're working with. For example, if a student has counseling needs and behavioral needs, develop some kind of partnership set up so that both can be worked with, but both sides know what the other one's doing. So it's a team approach, maybe is what I'm really thinking about on some things. The same thing would be like high school in transition, or high school kids and their transition needs, or career counseling needs. So you've got that social emotional piece that's tied to what do I need career-wise or social skills-wise, or so developing those. I mean, if I ruled the world and, you know, we had absolutely no constraints.
Yeah, I mean, I think there was a time when talking about the whole child was very in vogue, but it really does, you know, come back in when you're talking about these types of needs, you really do have to look at the whole child, and perhaps beyond that to more of a systems approach to service.
And even outside agencies like probation, making those partnerships, and because we have kids that are tied, and so there's something going on there, we're doing something here. So it could be someone, you know, a community agency that the student's involved with, that, you know, counseling, our counseling would have to somehow have some form of a bridge or partnership with to really be able to work with the student. So what are you doing for the student so we know what we can do with the student? We're not duplicating, so we're moving forward. We're providing, again, looking at the whole child because we're looking at mental health needs. That is so important for the student. And then even the, you know, that family component. So agency may be working with that piece of it. Well, how does that fit with what the student needs in the schools? So, you know, we ask for options.
And then, are there any more priorities? What would, I mean, on, you know, kind of the dream, what would be your priorities as we move forward, when we look at what we want and what we have? What would really be the priorities that we want to have come out of this as we move forward? Because I'm hoping you'll give us some direction of, you know, kind of what we need to do to better meet the needs of the students here in the WESELPA. Know what works. if, sometimes we can't have if we have a dream, we have to start somewhere and work towards it, so we sometimes can't fully actualize the entire dream all at once. So what would you like to see?
Can I add one more one?
Oh, okay.
Something that just has crept up a couple times for me is meeting someone with some experience with children with autism, and I mean the entire spectrum, not just Asperger's. And I know that's a very large request, but I think that ties into the partnership with the behavior, where, teasing all that out together would be really beneficial.
So that emotional component for the kids that are on the spectrum.
Exactly.
Would that tie into somebody that might be able to offer social skills to that group, or, I'm just wondering, is that, what are you talking
I
about,
think
just the
so, that's
behavior?
the primary, I think social skills is really where the primary need seems to be.
I think, I since I supervise the counselors, I do kind of see some of the processes that are in place, and I think social skills as well as anxiety issues
Yes.
were very large on, things that aren't necessarily amenable to individual counseling, but continue to be a need out there.
Right, and then maybe just having that partnership, working with the team, might help give some insight that other team members may not have.
Joan, I have a question. Now that we're taking on a lot more severe kids than we used to now that DPH is gone, I just needed to know some information about, with those kids, do we have someone who will be managing medication now through the cell phone? Is that a wasp?
Yes.
Be careful up there.
And call 911 if it bites me.
Okay. But do we have,
Or if you have an EpiPen, I'll welcome it.
okay, Kathleen, your job is to protect Joan. Yeah.
They probably need to cover that, but it's probably a mess.
Oh, yeah, I guess they were,
But I don't think that door opens.
some problems with the AC. Oh, I'm doing some more.
Oh, it's there.
Yeah.
No, maybe like children.
Okay, now we can't be lost.
We are like children, very distracted.
Focus.
You're right, you want to be big.
What do you, this is for mental health. We
So
need
Danny
mental
got
health.
to raise, Danny got to
I
raise
anxiety
your,
versus
that's right.
Yes.
So priorities.
Is there a psychiatrist? I mean, I know you
Okay,
talked about that
medication
sometimes, yeah.
management. One of the things with, if you recall, since now we're talking about educationally related mental health services, we go and they've gutted the government code sections where most of it was, not as much in ed code, where AB 3632. That was kind of a melding of the medical and the educational. The same as if you, CCS, or medically necessary OT and PT, came under Chapter 26.5 of the Government Code, the same section that addressed AB 3632. So that was kind of a melding of both medical and educational. And because they were supported by somewhat separate funding streams, that was okay. Now, we're going back to the IDEA definition. And so that's why we're talking about these now as related services. And if you recall from IDEA, when they talk about related services, it says it's a service that does not require a physician. So medical management, medication management is something we're going to have to change how we work with it. And that was almost a kind of a bright line that we used very often when the counselors reviewed cases, and if the kid needed medication monitoring, or which is really the psychiatrist there at DBH prescribing medication, then they got referred through AB. And our counselors didn't take that on. So while there continues obviously to be a need for medication, and AB did not pay for the medication, they just had a psychiatrist who prescribed it. That it's in itself, the prescribing of the medication is not an educational responsibility. So we're going to have to work with that. A couple solutions have come up, especially for kids that have Medi-Cal, to perhaps have a list of psychiatrists who would take their Medi-Cal, and we could just refer them to that psychiatrist for that service. The other kids who have insurance would go through their insurance process, and many times the parent has to do that anyways because, like I have Kaiser won't fill my prescription unless it's from a Kaiser doctor, unless I do some other things. So very often that was the way it was working. But it is going to put additional requirements on our counselors then to do more case management, where we're going to have to set up ways of communicating, because that medication only works if there's some communication. The doctor sees you for 15 minutes in the office. The teacher sees you for 30 hours each week. So somehow the information from the school and from the home needs to get to the doctor to have that medication piece work.
The part that I see that happening that hasn't been happening from DBH, and we haven't been doing either because it hasn't been part of what we were able to do, was that it's like Amy says, to really have a successful case, you have to look at the child as an individual working within the society, working within multiple systems. And you have to address that there are needs in each of those systems. And you have to look at it from a developmental perspective as far as where is the kid at right now, as far as what can he learn, what can he do, how can he participate. We understand that the biggest component of that is also the family. And so by having a better relationship, or trying to encourage a better relationship between the counselor and the family, almost in a case management approach, it does take a little bit of additional time. We can sometimes work through these resistant parents who say, I want my kids on parents. Okay, we'll help you with that, but here are other things you need to do. Be more supportive, stay away from these things, those kinds of things. So helping the parents to understand that they have that right to decide, but here are the consequences to that. And most of the time what happens is you see by getting the parent to talk, they'll be more amenable to the treatment strategies that need to take place for the kid. And then also working closely with the school as far as saying, there's going to be meds, it's going to be school for the school more than it is for the home. How are we going to see the teacher monitoring that? So it's a total approach to the child.
But that is something that there's been a lot of discussion around, because the shift does shift some responsibilities. DBH continues to be available to any student, particularly if they have Medi-Cal, they can walk in the front door at DBH. They do not require a school referral, and DBH would continue to do that medication monitoring. And we've had meetings with them, and they assure us that that continues to be in place. We do have a small option also with one of our community mental health providers that we have, who has a psychiatrist on staff. So if there are special circumstances, where you need that, where the team needs some, consult, we can use that. That also brings up another issue, under Government Code 26.5, it was always crisis management, was not part of, the AB 3632 services. Crisis management still would be, an emergency situation, and you would continue to call the crisis team through DBH the same as we always have, but it wouldn't be a service that we offer because, it's a crisis, it's unexpected. We're working on a plan. Kind of as we think about what we want